Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om. Welcome all Jignasus for joining us on 127th workshop via YouTube and Facebook. I thank each one of you for joining us live. In the past, we touched base on some of the fascinating topics which is part of Brahmasutras like who is God, who am I, what is my relationship with God, and what's my purpose in life. So now we are concluding our workshop on Brahma Sutra series where we will focus on some of the interesting phrases from Upanishads. So, what is all about these phrases from Upanishads that we keep hearing quite often? Phrases like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. And what's the background to these phrases from Upanishads? And most importantly, how do we interpret and use it in our Anusandhana? So Anusandhana or knowing the correct meaning is all important, right? So stay tuned. So we will be unraveling these phrases and give you some of the interesting insights into these Upanishadic phrases. In our previous workshop, we began questioning the basic definitions of Upanishads and how do we decode these Vedas using Brahma Sutras. We looked at how Vedas are Apaurishaya, and so many questions were touched upon. So I strongly urge all the viewers to watch our previous workshop who couldn't join us in the last workshop. Also, I request all the viewers to check some of our social media handles, especially MFI YouTube page. Try and consume some of the contents that we've posted. Also, like, share, and comment accordingly. Mr. Sunder Madakshira is a speaker for today's session. He's currently working at Resolve as the CEO and has been mentored by well-known scholars like Shri Prabhanjanacharya, Shri Shrikantacharya Bayari, and Srinidhi Acharya. So I request all the viewers to actively participate. So as we chat, keep your questions handy. Please drop in your questions in the comment section so that we can pick it up and answer them. So with this, so let's welcome Sundar. So with this, so let's welcome Sundar. Hi Sundar, welcome to 127th workshop on Brahma Sutra. Quite excited. Hi Sundar, welcome
Namaskara to everyone. I hope everybody is doing well.
Quite excited.
Very excited to bring in this version of everyone.
I hope everybody is doing well.
I don't know, I can hear my voice twice. Is everybody able to hear clearly?
I can hear my voice twice.
Is everybody able to hear clearly?
Hear my voice twice. Is it better now?
No, I can hear a very strong echo. Is everybody able to hear us clearly? Is everybody able to hear us clearly?
I can still hear the echo. So let me remove and then copy that. I can still hear the echo.
It's not clear.
So now it's better.
I can't hear you, Santosh.
It's not clear. So now it's better.
I can't hear you, Santosh.
It's not clear. So now it's better.
I can't hear you.
So viewers, just excuse us, just give us a couple of minutes. We will fix this issue and be right back.
Is it any better?
Sundar, is better now? I can hear your voice. It's quite clear now. Sundar, is better now? I can hear your voice. It's quite clear now.
Yeah, there is a lag I can see.
Sundar, is better now? I
Okay.
can hear your voice.
Let me log out and log in.
Sundar, is better now? I can hear your
Let me log out. Yeah. Can you hear me, Santosh? Is it better now?
Sundar, are you able to hear my voice? Is it better?
I am not able to hear you, Santosh.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. Okay, I can hear you. I'm good. My apologies. I was running YouTube in the background, so it was playing there with a lag, and that's why it was. I could hear my voice twice. So thanks and apologies for the glitches. Santosh and I had just checked it 45 minutes and it worked fine. But that's the thing about technology, as they say. The good thing about technology is it sometimes works. So today, I think we are going to be discussing a very interesting aspect of our philosophy, which derives itself from the Upanishads. And there are certain topics which cause some kind of a intrigue in our minds about what they really mean, and they have been publicized quite a bit. So we thought it is only right that we end the Brahmasutra series, as Santosh was talking about, in which we have covered over several workshops, with this topic, which is about two things, which is a phrase called Aham Brahmasmi and another phrase called Tattvamasi. So we look into that in detail. So Santosh, if you could bring up the presentation. Um, so yeah. So if you just look at the basic Upanishad, why is it first of all important? Why should we care about these two sentences so much? Why are we all sitting here and when we can do so many other things? Why is this so important for us to really understand and know very well? Because whatever I just mentioned, the two phrases are actually found in the Vedas. So, and the Vedas, as we all know and we've described it before, are the ultimate source of knowledge. They're not something that can be understood fleetingly, something that just says something randomly. So there's something in the Vedas. It is absolutely eternal. That's why we call it Aporushaya. Nobody created it. These exist as universal facts. For example, the number system. You can just look at the number system, one, the natural number system, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. Nobody created it. It's just a count which always existed from the time. So, like that, the Vedas are Aporushaya as well. Now, if you look at understanding of the Vedas, it determines the direction of our life. Our spiritual life is always directed by how well we have understood the Vedic philosophy. There are different types of philosophies. We have described them in earlier workshops, but the Vedas form the foundation of that philosophy, as far as Sanatana Dharma, or what we call as Hinduism, is actually known about. Then, very importantly, these phrases satiate the human thirst to inquire. We are always inquiring. That is the nature of the human mind. Be it a small child to someone who's grown up, we are always trying to explain the world around us. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? Sometimes some of us unfortunately lose that curiosity. But the Vedic philosophy always, if you see, sort of exhorts us to actually ask questions. Vedas and its understanding is all about questions. It's all about a discussion. It's all about a debate and refining our understanding of the world around us. So, therefore, accurate understanding leads to the clarity of thought, which is very important in any spiritual pursuit. It is very simple. Let us say you've got to go to somebody's house. Somebody has invited you for dinner and you go to their house. So, you're driving to go to their house. You have your dinner and you come back. Have you all observed that when you're actually going to some place which is new to you, something that you've never been before, it takes more time. And when you're coming back, you come much faster. So you all wonder why should that be the case? Because it's the same distance between two different points, whether it's measured in this direction or that direction. The fact is, once you know the path, you are more firm. You move much faster. You move with more conviction, and that is why you are able to come back earlier. The same thing happens with the spiritual world. If you have histories, you have questions which are not answered, your progress in a spiritual path slows down. So therefore, the idea is not to run away from these questions, but to actually understand these questions and ensure that we are learning more. So that is why it is very important to know this. Now the Upanishads, which what are these Upanishads? So definition of an Upanishad is the sacred knowledge which destroys the ignorance and leads us to the God. It's that knowledge. It's the most sacred knowledge that you can think of, which destroys the ignorance or avidya within us and leads us towards the path that leads to Brahman. It is very importantly, it explores the inner world of the man. There's an inner world, there's an outer world around us. There are people, there are objects, there are lots of things that occupy the world around us. The Vedas explain them, but very importantly, the Upanishad, part of the Vedas, actually take you to the inner world of the man. So it's a very inward looking body of knowledge where we're trying to seek understanding of everything that's happening around us through the inner world of the man. Now, this inner world is something which we are actually oblivious to. We don't know what is there inside us because it is unfortunately not seen with the eyes that we have. However, we can perceive it. So, in this shift of attention that's happening from the external world to the inner world, there are two entities there, which is yourself, the immortal self. Our jiva or the soul is immortal. It's always been there. And of course, the Upanishads also bring us to the lovely world of the supreme unseen power. Why is this power which is within us? The God is within us. We don't have to look for God anywhere else. Unfortunately, since we are not able to realize the God within us, we are looking for that God, that bliss, that happiness in everything that is there around us. This is what the yogis and the sages have always taught us. So philosophy deals with the man's experiences and his struggles and his quest for understanding the supreme unseen power and the relationship that supreme unseen power has with immortal self. So that if you look at our famous picture, because we always use this as a framework, that philosophy explains the relationship between God, the soul, or me, and there is the universe. So it's a triangle, and the Vedic Upanishads, the Vedas, the Puranas all try to explain each of these elements and their interrelationships that are there. So this particular topic that we are talking about in Upanishad today is explaining the relationship between God and the soul. So that's the Upanishadic word for you in extremely brief way. There are many Upanishads, but there are 10 principal Upanishads as they are called. And those have been taken up for commentary by the different acharyas that we've had in the past. Out of which, again, the ones that we are dealing with today, I won't read out the whole list, but this list is important. We have a quiz program that's coming up, which is going to ask you questions on the Upanishads. So read this sentence clearly. So these are all Upanishads, but we are focusing on two topics, which is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad in this, because these words of Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi come from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishads respectively. Okay, so yes. So here is what it is, the significance of the phrases. What is the significance of this phrase? So if you look at, again, what is the central purport of the Vedas and the Upanishads? If you look at it, the previous slide I had shown you, it is clear what the Upanishad wants to say. The Ishavasya Upanishad start with Ishavasya Midam Sarvam. That means God is present in everything that is there around us. And he is the owner, he is the controller of everything that is there here. That's a central purport of the Vedas. Some parts create intrigue. If we don't study them systematically, we are bound to come to wrong conclusions or incorrect conclusions about what these mean. Because the Vedic language is different from the ordinary spoken and written Sanskrit language. Now, when you look at these two topics, Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi, they are more exceptions than the rules. And what do I mean by that? Let us say you are going into a garden, and in the garden there's so many flowers. All the flowers are white in color, and in the middle of that place, the garden, you'll find a red flower. So there are two things you could do. The whole garden is full of white flowers, and there is something which is red in color. So the two approaches one typically takes. One, he says, I ignore it. He says, I don't know why this is the way it is. I don't know why it's an exception in the first place. The other one is he's intrigued and say, oh my God, and everything is white around it. How can this one flower be red? So let me investigate and let me understand more. He wants to understand the contrast that is there. So therefore, the the questions that we ask are very fundamental questions about the aspects of philosophy. So if you look at these two, Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi, they are in contrast to the rest of what the Upanishads and the Vedas actually mean, right? So they are in contrast. So we need to actually examine them much more. So Aham Brahmasmi is a part of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and Tattvamasi is a part of Chandogya Upanishad. Like this, there are other sentences which actually are also intriguing. They seem to be saying something different from what the rest of the Upanishads and the Vedas are saying. And why do they say so? And how do we sort of understand it? So, can we move to the next one, please? Yes. So here, whenever you're talking about inferring the Vedas, right? There is a certain framework that is provided to understand the Vedas, and it's important for us to know this before we jump into it. So it starts with upakrama, or it is how does something start, right? The starting is very important, because if you want to start a book, and it typically starts, let us say you're writing a novel, it's about a murder mystery, it has to start with a murder. And if there is something upasamhara, which is to say that now how do we end it? How do you end this particular subject? It is also important because that is where all the conclusion about whatever you're saying is absolutely there. The third one is abhyasa, or reinforce or repeat. So if there's something important, it's very common for all of us. If something was very important, what did our teacher do? He or she would repeat it to ensure that you caught it, because that's not something you can miss easily, right? The other one is on apurvata. That means special meaning. Let us say something is very, very unique or special. That has to be the inference. The next one is phala. That means the result. That means where does all this take us to? That is called the phala. And arthavada, which is what are the protractors of this particular Veda? How does it determine in the end? And lastly, looking at all this, how do you actually have how do you get the final upapatti or the inference? After reading all this, what is your inference? Right? It's like a judge who comes together and reads, takes all the witnesses into account, and then finally says, "Look, the final inference is this person is found guilty." So that is called the inference. So we use a very similar framework in law as we use it in the interpretation of the Vedas. Now let us move into that particular topic. Can we move to that, please? Yeah. So let's take up the first thing, which is called Aham Brahmasmi. As I said, this is the part of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And where does this Aham Brahmasmi actually come? Right? So there is the Upanishad, and in between, there is one place where it is said that there is a topic which is being discussed, which is how can the soul experience this bliss? Right? It's all talking about how can we all experience that state of bliss, right? So I've specifically put his or her bliss because everybody's bliss is not the same, right? So let me tell you, let us say there is a bucket which can carry 4 liters of water. We say fill the bucket. So if you fill the bucket, how much of water will be there? It's 4 liters. There's another bucket which has got the capacity of 10 liters. If you fill the water there, what happens after that? It can store 10 liters of water. Are 4 liters and 10 liters equal? No. That means everybody can only get that much of bliss that he is entitled to because of his basic nature. Right? Yeah. So here what it is. Here when you're looking at it in this context, what Aham Brahmasmi actually means. So here what is being described is, what do you have to do for the soul to experience his bliss or the bliss? That means the jiva or the soul or me in this case is different from the God. Because otherwise, why would we want to experience the bliss if we are God? Because we are already experiencing that bliss. So clear, the context here is the God inside me is the same as God inside the sun. That is the context that the Upanishads say. That the soul experiences this bliss. How? By understanding that God is central to our existence, or He in the Vedic language is Aheya. That means someone who cannot, without whom we cannot live. Right? So God is central to our existence, or He's Aheya. That is the meaning of Aham. Second one is God is absolutely perfect, or He is Brahma. So Brahma means a perfect and paripurna entity or complete entity. So Aham means God is central to our existence. He is absolutely perfect. The word absolute is very important. Okay, all of us have perfection to that extent, but He is absolutely perfect in every way and always conscious of his existence. God is always conscious of his existence. We are not conscious of our existence all the time. We don't even know who we are, right? And we lose that consciousness very, very frequently. But God is completely conscious of his existence. So Aham Brahmasmi, in other words, are all attributes of God. And Aham is an adjective, it's not a pronoun, right? This is how Aham Brahmasmi has to be understood in the context. Now again, I'll repeat the context. What's the context? The context that is being, there's a question which is being asked, which is saying that how does the soul experience his bliss? How does he experience that complete, that complete state of happiness? And that happens because he understands God as Ahera. That's the whole, Chandogya Upanishad Vakya. Now, if you will see, Aham Brahmasmi is not a sentence by itself. It is a part of a sentence. So, if you want to understand a part of a sentence, you obviously have to start with how it started, and it has to be very clear in what context it has been said and how is it being concluded, right? Using the framework that we just discussed. So here I'm seeing some questions which are coming up, which is what is the meaning of Brahman? Meaning of Brahman in this context is Parabrahman or Lord Narayana, the ultimate God, who is independent of everything and who is complete. He is Brahman. Yeah. So can we move on? There are other questions. Yeah. Can we? Yeah. Santosh, can you bring it on the slides? Santosh, are you there? Santosh, can you bring up the slides? Hello? Yes. Okay. So we'll continue, Santosh. Yeah. Please join when you can. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Santosh is unable to join. His internet is fluctuating, so we will continue with this. I'm sorry, we'll not have the slides for this, but we can continue without the slides. So this is the meaning of Aham Brahmasmi. Let us move to the next topic, which is Tattvamasi. So here, what does Tat Tvam Asi mean? Tvam Tat Tvam Asi. That's a split of Tattvamasi. It says that he is you. Right? Now, which is he and which is you? We'll come to it. Now, if you interpret this as you are God, that means God, which is meaning of Tat, Tvam, which is you, is Asi, which means you are. So you are him. That's the meaning of this. Now, there is a grammatical error in this interpretation, and we'll come to the grammatical error if you interpret it like this. What is a grammatical error? These two are in different vibhaktis, the words tat and tvam. So therefore, it means that you cannot use them in the same sentence. So that's a grammatical part. We leave it there. But look at what is happening. We are trying to combine opposite virtues. It is like saying black milk, because there is no such concept as black and there's no such thing as milk together. If it's milk, it has to be white. If it's black, then it cannot be milk. So if you try to combine opposites together, then it's an inaccurate reading of the particular sentence. So here, by saying Tattvamasi and interpreting it like God is you and you are God, it is a misinterpretation. Why? Because in a sentence, you cannot combine opposite. What is Tat here? God, who is Paripurna, who is Gunapurna, who is free of all defects. Tvam, which is the soul, is nothing but what is the meaning of the soul? What is the nature of the soul? The soul is incomplete. He is full of difficulties. He is full of negatives and he is full of limitations. So that's the meaning of that is the nature of Tvam, which is the soul, and we have to combine both of them. Now, for every sentence in the Vedas, there is something called a Mukhyartha and there is something called Amukhyartha. Mukhyartha meaning the one which is the central purport of whatever is being said. And amukhyartha means something which is secondary or in inferred meaning. We should go to a secondary meaning only when the primary meaning is not right or it's not sitting right with the rest of the sentence, right? So for example, let us say, it's very clearly said, the court, for instance, has pronounced the judgment, right? We read this, the court has pronounced judgment. Does the court pronounce a judgment? No, right? It is understood or it has to be inferred that the judges sitting in the court have pronounced a judgment, right? In a meeting they say the chair speaks. If a chair were to speak, my god, all of us will just get up and go away. So it's not the chair, it's the person sitting on the chair who is heading that meeting who is going to tell the meaning. So therefore, in Tattvamasi, if it was to mean that God who is full of great qualities is there here, and you, and there is this Tvam, the soul is somebody who is full of limitations. How can you combine the two? Just now we have described God as someone who's got all the qualities and no defects, whereas the soul has all the defects and all the limitations. This cannot be construed together. So this is what it is. So can we move to the next slide, which is about what? So therefore, what is Tattvamasi? What is the accurate meaning? It is all clear once we hear where did this actually come. In the Upanishad, in the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a dialogue which is going on between Uddalaka and his son Shvetaketu. Okay, Uddalaka is a learned sage, and Shvetaketu, again his son, is a scholar. He has mastered, or he thinks he has mastered, all the knowledge in the world, and with that, he's also become a little egoistic. He started thinking no end of himself, and he actually starts thinking of himself as God. Now, in order to prune his son's ego, Uddalaka asks him a simple question. He says, what is that one thing which, if you know well, you would have understood everything? What is it that, if you know well, you can actually understand everything? So, Shvetaketu is a little stumped by that question, and he also realizes that there are a lot of things he doesn't know. So, he falls at the feet of his father, asks for forgiveness, and asks him to educate him about the world, the universe, the nature of God, and so on. That time, Uddalaka starts to preach to him about various philosophical aspects. In that context, if someone, the word Tattvamasi comes, so Uddalaka is actually trying to tell his son that God and you are not the same. So it is very clear Tattvamasi means God is different from the soul. So therefore, Tattvamasi is actually connoting abheda. That means is connoting bheda. That means there are two different things and not connoting abheda. So what should Tattvamasi be therefore understood as? It should be understood as Tat Sadrishaha, meaning what? The soul has certain similarities to God. We have described this in great detail in one of our earlier workshops. The soul has some similarities to God. For example, the soul and God both are Nithya. That means they always existed. Both of them are by nature Anandamaya. But the proportion may vary. But the soul and God, both of them have Anandamaya. Both of them are, so you may ask, if both of them are Nithya, how are they different? They are different because soul and God are Nithya. That means they always existed. They are eternal. But the challenge is God is Shashvata, right? The soul is not Shashvata. So what's the difference between Nithya and Shashvata? Shashvata means that the God, the nature of God, his existence does not change with time. Whereas for the soul, while he existed always, his nature keeps changing. What body he attains can be very different from time to time. So that is the meaning of Tat Sadrisha. Then the other one is Tena Tvamasi. That's the second interpretation. That your existence is because of him. That means Uddalaka is telling Shvetaketu that your very existence is because of God. Tasmat Tvamasi. That's the next one, which is you are there because of his wishes. You are controlled entirely by him. And if he did not have the wish, you wouldn't have been born as well. Then Tasmin Tvamasi, that means you reside in him during the pralaya or during the great annihilation which takes place. All of us, all the souls, enter the body of God and we rest there. So that is the meaning of Tasmin Tvamasi. And the last one is Tat Satyam Sa Atma Atattvamasi, which is to say that God is all powerful, whereas you, the soul, are not. This is the interpretation of Tattvamasi, which sits well with the rest of the Chandogya Upanishads. Yes. So can we move to the next one? Yes. So it's a very interesting part of Upanishads, which is talking about the nine illustrations that show Veda or difference. So we may all say, okay, look, you are telling me that I am a soul and there is God inside me, but I am not able to see the difference. I am not able to see that there are two entities. How do I understand this? The Upanishad itself clarifies it beautifully. It gives us nine different illustrations. The first one is that let us imagine there's a bird which is tied to a string. So what happens with the tie is that the bird is tied and the bird keeps flying all around, but it's tied to the string. After some time, it comes back to that string, comes back to that pole to which it has been tied. So it tries, it looks at around the world and then finally comes back to this. Again, look at this. There is the pole, there is the string, and there's the bird. All of them, it looks like they are one entity. The bird can go anywhere, but its dependence is such that it has to come back because of the string that it is tied to the pole. So that's the first way to understand Veda. The second one is look at the bees. There are bees, honey bees, who keep going and draw that nectar from or the honey from various sources. They sit on a mango tree, they sit on a jackfruit tree, they sit on different flowers and they extract that honey from all of them. And what do? They go to a honey a beehive and they deposit that honey in that place. If you do that, then what happens to the bees? After some time, all the honey gets accumulated. Now, if you were to tell the bee, can you find out which part of the honey is from which tree? The bee is absolutely stunned. No, there's no way anybody can find out because now it's all got mixed. So we all know that the honey did not come from one single source, but yet we are not able to find out the difference. Another example of when a variety of things have got combined, they look like one entity, but in reality they are not. Look at the rivers joining the sea. Several rivers, they just join a sea. After the water enters, are we able to make out which is the river, which is the water coming from which river? Because several rivers will join an ocean. And can we make out the difference between the ocean um, as well as the river? No, we can't find out any of this. The tree is cut and it still grows. That's another example. If you look at a tree, you just cut off, chop, slowly you will see shoots coming out. You thought it was dead, but there is something inside which you could not see, which is still alive, and because of which the tree still grows. This is one of my favorite examples, which is the giant banyan tree in a small seed. Right? All of us have seen how big a tree can grow, a banyan tree can grow. Right? Sometimes you stand in front of the tree and you're simply shocked at the size of that tree. But imagine such a big tree, such a gigantic tree has germinated from one single small seed which is there. Can we make out if someone were to show you this and say, look, there is something inside this, there is a seed, and inside the seed there is this big banyan tree? None of us will imagine. Similarly is the nature of God. If the God is there and He is within us, no matter how big He is, we are not able to see, and we cannot believe that God of such a large proportion can be within us and yet be paripurna even in that small state. But that's an example which clearly says there can be something which is very big and it can be held in one single seed and we will not know the difference. Similarly, salt in the water. All of us have had this experience. Put the salt inside water, it just dissolves. How do we understand that there there is salt inside that by drinking it. The moment you drinking it, say, okay, my God, this water has got salt in it, or let us make it sweeter, it's got sugar in it. We can't see the difference. Similarly, a blindfolded man who is walking. There is a man who was walking in the forest. He gets caught by the thieves. They tie him up to a tree and they blindfold him. They just take away all his money and then they release him. What does he do? He finds out the place and he's able to retrace his place back. Again, an example of the Bheda that exists. There are many more. We won't have time, but there is one last thing I would like to share, which is the king punishes a thief. Imagine if you are a person who would go to some place and just steal something. Saying, okay, we are all same. Everything here belongs to me, and you take it away. Immediately, you get caught. No, they say no. There is bheda. There is a difference. So therefore, you and the owner of a large jewelry shop are not equal. You can't, steal that jewel. So a king here actually punishes a thief because, or a police punishes a thief because he's stolen. Imagine if some soul were to say he is Brahma and claim that Brahmatva from him, then imagine how much of punishment that person will get. Because we are actually taking Brahmatva, which is the most auspicious quality of the Brahman himself, which is Brahmatva, and we are taking it away from him. We are stealing. Well, anyway, it's not ours, and we will never become Brahma no matter what. But just the act of thinking like that can make us potentially like a thief. So these are the 9 illustrations of Bheda and difference.
Right. Thanks, Sundar. While you were explaining about these two phrases, how do we use this in Anusandhana? Like, do we keep reminding ourselves that we are not Brahman? Uh, and and how do we take this as a thought so that we don't get detoured?
Yes. Can you, if you can go to the subsequent slides, Santosh, we have tried to summarize it there. Um, yeah, so there is a quiz here. So, yeah. So we'll come back to the quiz. I'm sorry. We had to jump because Santosh asked me this question. See, the ultimate test for anything, right? These are all different schools of thoughts. They're all schools of philosophy. Everybody is entitled to his own thinking about what this is all about, and they can come to their own conclusions. So I would encourage everybody who is there on the call to actually pick up those parts and study it for themselves in the manner that they would like to, right? Please don't go just by what you're hearing here and there. Make your own inquiry and you will come to the right experience. But if you look at the ultimate test, which is the test of experience, Anubhava, what do you experience? Santosh, you just asked me,
Yeah.
how do you bring it to life? What is the meaning of all this in real life? The point is simple. To start with, and I will answer your question immediately after I complete this. Have anybody, you ask me, how do you bring it to Anusandhana? This is the easiest thing to bring it to Anusandhana. For even a moment, has anybody on this call or anybody anywhere in the world ever felt that they are God? Have they ever felt that they are Sarvashakta, Sarvagnya? Right? These are the attributes of God. Brahman, many people have asked, what is Brahman? Brahman is Paripurna. He is complete in all respects. Have you ever felt complete even for a split second? The moment you say, "Oh, I am Brahma," or "I am great," or "I am God," that very split second, you already have a doubt in your mind over, did I say the right thing or did I say something silly? Because we have not experienced it. When we say Sarvagna, we have not experienced complete knowledge of anything in the world. Forget about everything in the world. So complete knowledge about everything in the universe is Sarvagnatva. Not knowing, being the most knowledgeable person in your classroom, that is not called Sarvagnatva. Sarvashakti means he can do anything. He can create anything at his will. We have no such capability. So how do you bring it? What is the meaning of this? Is that for our sadhana, it is very important to understand this. Because at the end of the sadhana, no matter how much we try, we are all expecting a phala or a fruit. And what is the phala if you are expecting that after your sadhana is done, after your avidya or the the lack of knowledge, if I may say, or ignorance, if I may say, is destroyed. And what will happen at the end? We will become Brahma. That is not perpetuate. That's not going to happen, because we are not going to become Brahma, because that it is not a barrier of knowledge. It is a reality that there is a fundamental difference between the Brahman and the soul. That's number one. Second thing is, when we think of our life like this, we know that there is somebody who is all powerful, who has got a complete control about everything. It has been all our experience. What happens? We say, "Oh, this is impossible. It will never happen," and it happens. Why does this happen? Because there is a larger force which is governing the universe around us. So if we all decide that our upasana, our sadhana, our puja, whatever we want to do, is all directed towards that perfect being who is very different from us, then we know that we are headed in the right direction, right? So the Upanishads are the ultimate proof. There is absolute, let us not have any doubt about it. And the meaning of Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi is to make the difference between the God and the soul very clear, right? It's absolutely clear. You remember we had defined the Upanishad, Santosh, in one of our earlier slides, where we said that when we get that knowledge, we will attain Brahman. This is a definition actually given by Shankaracharya, but it is agreed to by all the other people who are supporting this as well, because yes, that is true. But here the difference is that after you get that yathartha gnana, or you get that knowledge that God is aheya, that means God is almighty, he is central to our existence, and really understand that with all the depth, then that person is set for liberation. He reaches God. He doesn't become God. He goes he goes and meets Lord himself. But he doesn't go, he doesn't become God. There are two very, very fundamental things. Look at an electric wire. The electric wire is not the current. The current is inside the electric wire. Right? So to be understanding, very important that we understand this accurately and consistently. So I should say, I would request everybody on this, whoever is watching this, to make their own inquiry. You don't have to go by what XYZ are telling, but there are lovely resources which are available for you to sit and understand what it is, and then chew it in your mind, and then only accept what your own experiences say and what your own belief system actually talks about.
Thanks, Sunder. So will be getting into the quiz model now. So we have two bunch of
Yes.
questions. They are quite simple. Uh,
Okay, so
and
now we have a quiz on this topic. Santosh will ask you some questions, and you have to answer them in the comments. And there are questions which are there for which I will, uh, um,
right.
yeah.
So the first question goes like this: which of the following are not Upanishads? Vishnu Upanishad, Sagar Upanishad, Vishmayo, Vishmayopanishad, Brahmopanishad, and Mrityunjay Upanishad. So, which of the following are not Upanishads? So, viewers, given 10 seconds, please think of it, and then start posting your answers. Okay, so eternal search says B and E. Okay, interesting. Okay, Pavan Sudhindra actually got the right answer. He says none of them. Yes. So,
Yeah,
none
that
of
is
them
a,
are actually,
yeah,
yeah, none of
yeah,
them
that's right.
are
Absolutely, it's a trick question. None of them are Upanishad. We just made it up so that we all go back and say which are those Upanishad that we know. Okay.
right. Right. Thanks, Pavan. So, who wrote the Upanishads? So, is it Lord Narayana, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or none of the above? So, who wrote the Upanishads? So, Pavan Sudhindra says D. Again, he's right. likewise, it's Apaureshaya, so no one has written Upanishads. Upanishad is Shruti. Yeah, correct. Thanks, Pawan again. So moving to the next question. So, what is the meaning of the word Upanishad? Right. So, what is the meaning of the word Upanishad? The text which explains the Bhagavad Gita, the ultimate Purana Grantha. Option C, the knowledge that helps understand and attain Brahman or his Brahma's grace, or D, all of the above. So, to Vishal, actually, he's right. So, again, Eternal Research also says C, Pavan says C, correct. So, the meaning of the word Upanishad is the knowledge that helps to understand and attain Brahma's grace. Correct. So, moving on, the next question is which of the following are also Upanishads? So, which of the following are also Upanishads? Kaushiki Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Maitri Upanishad, and all of them. So, which of the following are also Upanishads? These are the four options. Pavan Sudhindra says B. So let's wait a few more. Yeah. Prashant VD got the right answer. He says all of them just correct. So all of them, all three of them are comes under the Upanishad. Yeah. The next question, which is true or false. The central purpose of the Upanishad is to describe accurately the rituals that have to be performed to attain Brahman. So, true or false, the central purpose of the Upanishad is to describe accurately the rituals that have to be performed to attain Brahman. So, is it true or false? Correct. Again, Pavan Sudhindra is right. False. So, Upanishad is not only to describe the rituals, but also it is to attain Brahma's grace. So that we've given you link in the previous question, right? So yeah, so the last question, which is which of the two phrases say that God and the soul are one? Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So which of the two phrases that say God and soul are one? So Tattvamasi and Aham Brahmasmi. Which of these two are none? Correct. So again, Pavan Sudhindra is right. None of the phrases. I think out of 6 questions, I think Pavan has actually got right four answers. Congratulations to Pavan. So he's the winner. Swept all the questions. Uh, thanks, Pawan, and thanks all the viewers for actively participating and then putting your questions. Putting your answers right, uh, and then yeah, I'm moving. So Sundar just touched upon the summary part, and then the 9 truths of creation. Sundar, would you want to touch upon this?
Yes, I think I'm coming here, coming back to this topic because if you remember one of our earlier workshops, which is I think I don't remember the number, but 106 or 107 workshop number. This is available on YouTube, which is we're talking about the 9 truths of God creation. This is the central tenet of Madhva philosophy. If you look at it, Sriman Madhvamate Hari Parataraha. I mean, he is very clear and very surgical about what he wants to say. He is saying Harihi Parataraha. That means he is entirely different from anything else that we know. Right? So there is absolutely no hope in hell that anything or anybody can be anywhere close to his understanding of Hari Paratara or Hari. Okay. So if you look at everything else, Satyam Jagat, Jivagana Hare Anucharaha. That means all the gods, all the other souls are all his servants or they are under his control completely. Again, that shows that God is different and the soul is different. So muktihi, naidya sukhanubhuti. Why does one get mukti when he has that naidya sukhanubhuti? So that means right now he is in a state of not, we are all, the soul is not in the state of mukti, but he's going to attain mukti, which is in future tense. Amala bhaktishte tatsadhana. So one has to do bhakti. For whom do you do bhakti? If you are the same as Brahman, if you are the same as God, why do we need a prayer? Right? And of course, the other thing like Akilam Nayika Vedyohari. Very important here, Santosh. Aklam Nayika Vedyo Hari, which says that whichever part of the scripture you talk about, finally, it is all talking about the supremacy of Hari. So this is something which starts with the word Hari and ends with the Hari, and there is Hari everywhere in between. So it's a very clear thing about how we should be interpreting these, but this particular set of sentences, which is Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi. But let me tell you something that I would say that while they have heard a point of view, I am encouraging everybody to read for themselves and come to their own conclusion. Only thing, they should learn it from the right people, from the right masters, and get the knowledge from the right sources. Right? So there are some questions, maybe we would like to take them.
Sure, Sundar. Sundar, I have a question.
Yes.
While we touched upon a couple of the phrases and then spoke about that there is a difference between Jiva and uh, Bhagavanta. So, like, and also like we've touched upon how to do the Anusandhana. So, my question is like, while my Anusandhana is right and not do my daily rituals, like say doing Sandhya Vandana or whatever other. But I hold my Anusandhana very strongly. So most of the time I am in that Anusandhana. Would it still work? Would that be enough for me to get Bhagavanta's grace? Is that possible?
Yeah, so the answer is unfortunately no, Santosh. We have an exclusive workshop that has been planned in a few months now, which is talking about which is greater, is it jnana or karma? That's a topic which has been taken at great length in the Bhagavad Gita, starting with karma yoga, and then it goes on to talk about the jnana yoga.
Correct.
But clearly, karma yoga, which is whatever we are destined to do or whatever we are supposed to do, niyata karma as it's called, we have to do that, right? So for example, you work for a company, let us say, right? And the company sells some product, right? Imagine you come to the office every day and say, look, I believe completely in my product. I believe that the products that we make are the best in the world. They say, Santosh, you got to manufacture those products. For that, you need to work. There has to be some action from you, right? So you say, no, no, no. I have complete conviction. People say, no. You have to demonstrate that commitment in terms of actually working towards it. The karma charana that is there, whatever we are supposed to do, perform as our duties. And it's not just philosophical or spiritual practices. It is also about other practices that we have. For example, is a father, somebody is a son, somebody is a daughter, somebody is a mother, somebody is a daughter-in-law. We got several relationships, we have several roles that we play in the society, in our families. All those karmas are niyata karma, right? We will talk about it in great detail. But Krishna, this question is exactly put by Arjuna. He says, look, why don't you said Gnana is great. Why don't you just let me, read some books, let me go away to the say, to the Himalayas and let me meditate. Why should I be coming and, fighting this gory war? You're asking me to perform karma, which is understood, but this kind of a gory war, where I have to kill my own people. He's angry and he's shaken. He asks this question, and Krishna says, no, your duty is to actually perform. Your duty is to fight this war. That is your prayer to God. That is your meditation. A meditation cannot be running away from this war, right? We all know that famous anecdote, right? There was once a king. He had a watchman, right? And who was given the responsibility of guarding the fort. He, one night, I think he just slept off, and he got a dream that there is the enemy is actually attacking the kingdom in a very nefarious way. So immediately the king, and he woke up in the morning, went to the king, and then told the king that, look, when you're talking about this, I got a dream yesterday that our enemies have attacked us. So the king immediately said, oh, really? Then he goes and asks some people to investigate, and he actually sees the enemies are coming. So the king prepares for the war, goes fights the enemy, and wins the war. And then he calls this watchman, and he says, because of your dream, we all got saved. Here is your prize for telling us this. And by the way, after that, you are suspended from your duty. The watchman is shocked. He said, "Oh my God, why? What did I do?" He said, "You're a watchman. Why were you sleeping in the night?" So no matter what you do, you have to perform your niyata karma. It's a very interesting topic. It keeps intriguing us. We will talk about it as time comes in the next few workshops. We are talking about it in great detail. But I think at a broad level, I have answered this question.
Yes. Next question from Yadav. Yadav Rao says, why God created us and come with such big confused system for us to misunderstood. So basically, like why so much of confusion?
Yeah. So it is a bit like this true and false question that we have, Mr. Yadav. The questions that have been put is only to refine our understanding, right? In a classroom, there are many ways you can look at an examination. An examination, you can say, "Oh my God, I've got an exam. I have to write this exam to pass. If I fail, I don't know what's going to happen." The other way to look at an exam is, this is a feedback time. Let me test whether I have understood something or not, right? So if God had only created confusion in front of us, He had put us into this bad, messy world without giving us the support. Then whatever you are saying is right. But while God has put us in a complex world, no doubt these questions are not easy to answer. Otherwise, we wouldn't have needed an Upanishad to tell us all this, right? He has also given us great gurus, great teachers, great resources which are available even today, intact, even after centuries. And in fact, each commentator, each writer has come up with even better understanding, even more refined understanding, and something that people of that generation can relate to. So we are living in a complex world, no doubt, but we have the GPS to bail us out of the system, if I may say. And that GPS is nothing but our own study of philosophy. So let's not get confused. The word God has not created all this to confuse us. He has created enough resources, and He's there within us to guide us through all our questions. How many challenges have you and I and everyone else faced in our lives? Who held our hands? Who guided us through? It's God, isn't it?
Yeah. Next question, Sundar. Like, how do you say that Brahman is only Narayana? Why can't it be Shiva or Shakti?
Yes. So this is the first Brahma Sutra, Atato Brahma Jignasa Om. It starts with that word called Brahman, and it goes on to explain why the Brahman is Narayana. Right? Here, the word Narayana or Brahman is used to explain the perfect being, someone who is paripurna or who is complete, who is full of all the auspicious qualities, and that is residing only in Brahman, or which is Narayana. It's explained in greater detail. Now, the next Brahma Sutra says what? Janmadhyasayataha. That means somebody who is responsible for Janma, Marana, existence, so on and so forth. The entire aspect of the universe is controlled by that person. Who is that person? It's Narayana. It's not Lord Shiva. It is not Lord Parvati or Shakti or anyone else. The scriptures are absolutely clear about this, right? Now, all these people are gods. They have to be venerated. They have to be prayed to for giving us this knowledge of the right knowledge. But they are not Brahman. They are not Parabrahman. That's the meaning.
Right. We had a follow-up question. Like Lord Hayagriva has also told Goddess Lalita as Parabrahma Swarupini. So, uh, can we consider that as supreme deity as Parabrahma Swarupini Lalita?
No, no, no. That is to be interpreted very differently. We will take it up on a later date about what Parabrahma Swarupini means in this particular context. See, the thing, whenever we are interpreting, and these were questions that we all get, the point that we are making here is whatever you talk about in one place has to be consistent in all the other places, right? You can't make an assessment looking at only one thing. It's like a doctor. He makes a diagnosis looking at an X-ray, looking at a blood test, looking at several other things, observation of the patient, and so on. He just doesn't jump into the conclusion looking at one thing. Sometimes when he's not clear, he actually asks for a repeat test, right? So like the way a doctor looks at this particular thing, a lawyer looks at multiple aspects before making a decision. When you're talking about the goddess as Parabrahma Swarupini, is it that goddess, whether we are referring to goddess Parvati or goddess Lakshmi, do they stand the test of the being Parabrahma Swarupini everywhere or not? If not, then it has a different meaning. So we will come to that in due course.
Right. A slightly different question here. Pawan is asking, while the materialistic world is so very attractive, how do we not get distracted from it, and how do we train a mind to keep away from it?
So there is absolutely nothing wrong in being focused on the materialistic world. We don't have to get distracted. Only thing we should avoid is to think that that materialistic world, the happiness that it gives, is the ultimate, right? The world which is the materialistic world that is there is absolutely a truthful world. It is a Satyam Jagat. It is a Satya Jagat. The world around us is not an illusion. It is there. It can be used for our spiritual pursuit as well. So, how do you train the mind? Clearly, again, we're going to discuss that in our workshops on Gita. But one way to do it, two ways that Sri Raghavendra Swamiji describes is one is to fast, right? If you fast, your mind gets trained. It's easier to train a mind when you're fasting. So again, you don't have to do an entire day fast, that you should do only on Ekadashi. But other days, you should fast intermittently, what has now become very famous as intermittent fasting, that helps you gain control over your senses. And you're able to guide your senses towards the pursuit that you want, right? So, for example, many people do this when they're working. It's happened to all of us, right? Whenever we want to write an exam, we don't feel like eating our food. Have you ever wondered why? Right? We are
Yes.
doing that because we want to focus all our attention on one particular thing. Have you all observed? All of us have gone in an aircraft. When the aircraft is taking off or it's landing, they switch off all the lights, right? Nobody should move. All the lights are switched off. Why? Because of course, safety reasons. The other thing is you want the entire resource of the aircraft, all its power, to be dedicated on only two things. One is taking off, if it's taking off, and landing, if it is landing. So if you want to focus all your attention, then fasting is the best way to do that. And the other one is through constant meditation. We have already conducted workshops on meditation. We have talked about it in great detail, and we will do so more going forward as well. But these are two methods specifically described in Gita Vivritti of Sri Raghavendra Swami.
Right. The last question, like Eternal Search is asking, like, please help on the concept of Ananta.
The concept of Ananta, sorry, I couldn't get that question.
So please help
What?
on the Ananta reference or the thoughts. Basically, I'm guessing he's asking about what do you mean by Anta? The concept of Ananta.
So Anta means end. Ananta means without ending. That means basically infinite. So it's a unique quality of God, right? We can't claim that anything about us is Ananta, other than the fact that we have always been there. As souls, we have always been there. So our existence of our soul has also been Ananta only, right? But for God, every attribute is Ananta. So when he talks about Shakti, it's Ananta Shakti. When it's about Vidya, it's Ananta Vidya. When it's talking about wealth, it's Ananta wealth. That means infinite wealth. Right? To understand what it is, you don't have to look anywhere else, you have to just look up. The sky is limitless. Imagine the sky is just the feet of the Lord. It is not even the Lord. It is just the feet of the Lord. But that is His way of telling how large He is. The whole universe that we can imagine just sits like a small seed in His tummy. That is the concept of Ananta. It is very widely used. This attribute is very widely used in describing Him again and again in our various Shrutis, Vedas. It is appears many times. And Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It's one of the major sentences which is often quoted. So Ananta is one of the attributes.
Right. I think he's actually correcting the question. He's asking how souls are Ananta. How about talking about how our souls are Ananta, and where can I find the reference for this?
Yeah. So I see the question. I am not. I am talking about how our souls are ananta. So our souls are ananta because we've always existed. souls were not created; they always were existed. So to that extent, they are Ananta. This is not given in. This is not even in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavata. No, no, it is there in both. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita explains this in great detail. There is a shloka where Krishna is saying that look, I always existed, you also existed, and so did all these kings who are around us, and that is where he accepts the and explains the eternal nature of the souls. So yes, the jivas and the souls are definitely eternal, and it does have a very, 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 very prominent place in Bhagavad Gita. Please read the second chapter as well as the third chapter and the fourth chapters. We used to talk about this at great length in the Madhva Bhashya and Pramey Deepika and Bhava Deepa of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji and Pramey Deepika of Sri Jaitirtha.
Right. Thanks, Sundar. So if you have any questions, please keep posting the questions while I cover about the rest of the slides. So, yeah. So the upcoming workshop schedule that we're proposing for this year, which is three workshops already done, which is on Japa, decoding Aham Brahmasutras and Aham Brahmasmi is today's topic. The next few sessions that we lined up is the 5 intriguing questions from Mahabharata, 5 intriguing questions from Ramayana, and the next workshop will be Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Which path is better? Which path do I choose? Right? And then following is the Karma Yoga of Sri Raghavendra Swami's unique insights on Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Yoga, and unique insights of Bhagavad Gita by Sri Raghavendra Swamiji again, and again Bhakti Yoga. So all these, which is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga by Raghavendra Swami's point of view and his insights on Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah,
And then,
so Santosh, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
sure.
You can just go back. I'm so sorry. Here what we if you go back one slide, yeah. So if you see on 14th and 21st and 18th of September, we're planning these workshops on Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, by which is by Sri Raghavendra Swamiji. Why specifically was what has happened, because in the Bhagavad Gita Bhagavad Gita there are two commentaries from Madhvacharya, Gita Tatparya and Gita Bhashya, and both of them have commentaries by Jai Tirtharu, Narahari Tirtharu, Padmanabha Tirtharu, and several other people. And then there is the commentary by Raghavendra Swamiji also. What Raghavendra Swamiji has done, he's encapsulated all this in a beautiful work called Gita Vivritti. And it's a beautiful work. I would encourage all of you. It's in Kannada, translated by the Purna Pragna Vidyapita scholars. Please procure this grantha. If you can read in Kannada, it's a blessing. If you don't read in Kannada, please start learning Kannada just to read this book by Gita Vivruti. I think it's one of the most practical, pragmatic interpretations of Bhagavad Gita. Very, very different from what you would see externally. So we'll try to cover as much as we can in these three workshops. Yes.
Right. So moving on, so we have an open house session where uh, like all the viewers can join and then have your question posted, and we'll take up these questions to answer to our best. So an open house session, then followed by Upanishads, where we'll be talking about the essence of Vedic philosophy. And then on 18th December, we'll be talking about sadhana, so the path and milestone in spiritual journey. And then learning the Madhva philosophy. We had covered a workshop before, so we're again covering another session where how to learn Madhva philosophy in a structured manner. Then Shastras. So, what can you prove of it, and then what is the system of proof in Indian philosophy? That we'll be discussing on 19th Feb, and then 19th March 2023, which is the glories of Vishnu Sahasranama. So we'll be talking about Vishnu Sahasranama in depth, and then April, May, and June we'll be talking about various saints, life and works of Vadirajaru, Vyasarayaru, and Jayatistharu. References and acknowledgements. Sundar, we can come back after the next slide, right?
Yeah, so I just wanted to quote all the references that we have used to prepare for this particular workshop. I just want to take this opportunity to also thank our gurus, Shrikant Acharya Bayari and Shri Nithya Acharya Pyati from Purna Pragna Samshodhana Mandira, Shri Pandarangi Madhavacharya, also from Purna Pragna Samshodhana Mandira, Dr. Praladacharya Joshi from Shri Uttarathi. All of them helped a lot when we were preparing for this workshop. And on top, you can see the list of all the references that we have. If any one of you is interested, these books are available. You could procure it from Vedanta Book House or the Bandhana Book House. Many of them are available online as well. These are collections that you should have. They are in the books by B.N.K. Sharma and K.T. Pandavagiri are in English. So we will share all this in the comment section in YouTube. You could watch it there.
So like the way forward is the how we have structured our content is we have the online live programs, which is a 1 hour program like we're conducting every month on a Sunday, and they'll be taking upon the Vedic stream for the short videos depending on the content. So there'll be a 10 to 12 minute kind of video, and there is a 3 to 5 minutes kind of video depending on the topic. We would present these contents, and then we'll be having a Dvaita series, Bhagavad Gita series, Upanishad series, Mahabharata series, and meditation series. Likewise, we had Brahmasutra series. So these are some of the series that we've planned out. And then the request to all participants. So please suggest topics, questions that you have. Like if you have any suggestions that you have for us to make this platform much better, please do write into us. Like if you want to become a volunteer, please do write into us at Madhvacharya numerical4youth at gmail.com. You can also follow us on other social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So the handle is Madhvacharya for Youth. Please do write into your comments, suggestions, and then do check out our YouTube channel. So there are a lot of videos that has been posted. So we have more than 120 workshops being conducted. Please do consume this content and please do write into us. The next workshop, which is on July 3rd, which is on Sunday again, which is 5 intriguing questions from Mahabharata. So please make a note of this date and then block your calendars, and then we'll see you on July 3rd. So any final finishing thoughts, Sundar?
No, nothing, Santosh. First of all, again, I'd like to apologize to people for the technical glitch that we had. These are unfortunately the things that we don't have control over with. So we will try to do it better. So please, thank you for being patient with us and showing your intelligent and complete participation. My only request to participants is, I know these are very emotional topics. People have get very excited when we hear about it, but on this forum and every other forum in social media, let us maintain a civil language. I think it's very important that the language that we use is civil. This is about philosophical aspects. We can all be very passionate about what we are doing. We can all be very, very excited about what we are doing. But I would request you to control that excitement and use it in the right way. So when you're putting these questions, please do not use any obscene language. It really puts off a lot of people from us. But other than that, I think Santosh, if you can just go back, there was few questions that would be good to answer. If you could just go back, is there a way? Oh, sorry, I can scroll it up myself. I'm sorry. Um, um, So there is one very interesting question which came up, that when there is a when there is a direct interpretation which is there of Aham Brahmasmi, why are we trying to make it difficult, or why are we trying to complicate it? Okay, so let me tell you a word. If I just say, Santosh, I'm going to come and kill you, give me all the money you have. If I just say this, and Santosh is shocked, then why is he suddenly saying this? Then I say, you know what, Santosh? What I just told you is a dialogue from a movie which I saw yesterday. Beautiful dialogue. This guy really scared the hell out of that villain. Right? If I tell you this without telling you the context, then it will be an inaccurate understanding. Again, let's go back to Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi. In both these things, these are not sentences which came from nowhere. These phrases are not standalone sentences. They are a part of a shloka. They are a part of a sentence. So they have to be understood only in that the context of that sentence and what is being generally spoken about, right? So, for example, the fourth chapter, the third chapter is on karma yoga, right? And there is something that is being discussed about that. Obviously, everything that has got to do with that has got something to do with karma yoga in Bhagavad Gita, right? In the textbook which is titled Textbook of Physics, right? And inside that textbook of physics, you find a mathematical equation. What does it mean? It means that that mathematical concept which is there is being used to explain some concepts to do with physics, because the textbook is about physics, correct? There is physics that is mentioned even in a medical course. There is physics and medical course. There is chemistry in physics in medical course. Why are we studying that and not some general chemistry? Because that is all about something with biochemistry, which you need to understand from the concept of the human body. It's not just, for example, production of sulfuric acid is not a topic which is going to be taught in medical school. But if there is a mention of a chemical thing which is available, it means what? It means it has got something to do with the topic of medicine. So Aham Brahmasmi may be very simple interpretations, but we have to pass it through that particular framework to see whether this is fitting into that or not. If it is not fitting in, you have to examine. We are not forcing, or there is no compulsion for people to decide one way or the other. This workshop is not meant for people to come to that conclusion. This workshop is being conducted to ensure that people think on those aspects, because the interpretation which is there, which is popular, might not be the most accurate one. That is the purpose.
Thanks, Sundar, for that clarification. And so we'll join you in the next session, which is on July. So until then, block your calendars and then keep writing to us. If you have any questions, suggestions, please write into us. And thank you, the entire team of MFI, for bringing this up for our audience. Till then, thank you, Sundar. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.